You see, the globalists only have to hold the high ground of science and technology and weapon systems. And then using their sociology, their psychology, play us all off against each other, balkanize us along all these different racial and religious lines, because that's how we're programmed tribally to, defend our territory against neighbors. And so we're in this primitive paradigm. They're manipulating those inputs, those instincts, those activities. And I remember, like I said earlier in the first hour, being invited by the Libertarian Longhorns and the Young Conservatives to a Texas Independence Day birthday celebration. And I went down there to give a speech. And folks showed up in Aztec headdresses and ran up and grabbed the birthday cake, crammed it in their mouths, spit it back out on the cake. A black guy came running up, grabbed the microphone. I didn't want to get in a fight with him. I just gave it to him and said, "You're a racist." And I said, well, that doesn't really... I said to the guy, I said, I'm pretty young. I don't have a bunch of white guilt. I didn't grow up when people drank out of different water fountains and stuff. I said, I really don't appreciate you saying that, but it doesn't have any power over me. I don't care. Because it's a very fine line you've got to walk. Because when you get real racism thrown at you by Hispanic groups, by racist black groups, you have to understand what they're doing and understand the perspective they're coming from and not hate them back and not get into the tribalism with them. But at the same time, you got to also understand that that's being used as a tool of balkanization, and nevertheless, that is going on and that is happening. Same thing for black people and Hispanics that have had white racism and discrimination, which certainly goes on, directed at them. You have to be able to separate that out. So how do I not play in to the paradigm of balkanization and racial hatred and division when we try to point out that we can't have completely open borders, we can't have 14 towns in South Texas flying the Mexican flag and speaking Spanish in their courthouses and English isn't allowed? That's San Antonio Express News report. I mean, we can't have 30 million people here, at least half of them believing this is Mexico from Texas to California and all the states in between. Aslan. Maybe we should put a map of Aslan up. Aslan. Texas, New Mexico, part of Colorado, Arizona, Nevada, California, up into Oregon. And this is taught. I mean, when I was in high school here in Austin, I went in Dallas some, and then last couple of years here in Austin, I was in the art class, and she took us on a field trip one day to see the UT Art Museum, something along those lines. It was a UT art display. And there was a Hispanic artist who gave us the tour of his art, and it was all about how evil America is and how evil the gringo is and La Reconquista. And I, just because I'd read a lot of history books, wasn't even into that at that time, didn't even really know. And I was like, yes, but Mexico also did control Guatemala and got kicked out by the natives down there, and Mexico was corrupt, and Santa Anna was a dictator, and the people were enslaved. And he was giving a speech demonizing Texas, and I said, and I knew enough about Texas history, and they got very freaked out, and he went and had a talk with the teacher and said, who is this guy? Well, they're like, oh, yes, he's very... And it was just because I saw an attack on my country and a distortion of my country. And so the point is, this is just everywhere. So then I'm kind of this Ron Paul type conservative libertarian, first few years on radio, as I'm really starting to go down the rabbit hole. And I get invited to come give a speech at UT, so I come down. I don't even realize that the illegal aliens down there and others had pushed to have UT cancel Texas Independence Day parade because it's now considered racism. I mean, Texas Independence Day, you're not allowed to have it. Cities don't put it on. Counties don't put it on. I guess a few towns like Gonzales do. It's like it's dirty. It's bad. It's like, you know, it's like liquor you got to put in a brown bag, or porno movies you got to put in a bag or whatever, you know, so nobody sees it. You know, when you're leaving the store, it's like bad. It's like the Second Amendment where you got to sneak out to your car and put the rifle in and go to the gun range and look around because you've already had neighbors call cops on you when they see you putting a gun in your car. That's how screwed up our country is, folks. They take everything good and wholesome and they make it dirty. So then I began to learn more and more and more and more and more and more about all of this and about the plan of San Diego and how in the Spanish bilingual schools in Texas and California and other states they teach that they're going to overthrow and kill all whites 16 years of age and older, and that they actually launched the attack during World War I for the Germans. Mainline history, but nobody seems to know it, and killed a bunch of people in South Texas. And I know this, but then I'm not supposed to talk about it. I'm supposed to just sit here and put up with it. And then you go to the Cinco de Mayo parades and things, and it is all Aslan this, down with America that. Right after 9/11, it was in the news that at these different rallies they were saying Osama didn't do enough. And, of course, that's all a false paradigm. Osama bin Laden's a CIA front. But the issue is at soccer games, when the American team was there 1 week after the attacks, they were chanting, Osama, Osama, Osama. I mean, the point is Mexico, on average, really hates our guts. My wife, you know, maybe every 2 years or so, we'd go down to the Mexican Caribbean. And she said last time, she said, I don't want to go down there anymore. And I said, why? I go, well, it's cheap and I like it. And we can fly down there quick and go out and, you know, whatever. And she said, you know, I speak Spanish, and I just don't like what they're saying about us. And it's just, look at these gringo scum. We're going to slit their throats. We're going to take their country down. And you're sitting there paying them, and they're living off of your business. But it's just like, you know, look at this stupid gringos. They ought to go back to Europe, stupid pilgrims. And, you know, my wife's got to hear it in restaurants. Because she, you know, she's white. She just lived in Spain for 4 years, and as a kid, so she picked it up. And it's just constant. It's constant. I mean, it's the equivalent of being like a black guy, I guess, in the 1940s in Alabama. If he was in a white restaurant, it'd be, look at that, you know, N-word, this, that. But the black guy couldn't understand the language. He wouldn't even know what was going on. So it's this perfect. It's this perfect way for this racism and balkanization to grow because these stupid yuppies don't even know the three branches of government. They don't even understand the basic ways societies work and operate. And so how are they going to know what people that have a totally different culture, highly nationalistic, racially based, that lost 2 wars with us and hate our guts fundamentally? I mean, it's a fact. And you've got the government and the media teamed up because the government's globalist. They want to break the country down. They want to bankrupt the jobs. They want to drive the wages down. They want to use the U.S. as a steam valve so there's not a real revolution in Mexico so they can actually get some freedom. Mexico is the second most corrupt nation on earth after North Korea in all the different international indexes. The United States is number 6 now. So we're not too good either. And America is falling. We are losing our engine of a free market. It's probably over for us. You know, the question now is, what can we salvage? And again, the saddest part about this is Hispanic Americans are wonderful, salt of the earth, good people. And that's one hardworking, smart, intelligent, inventive group who just don't really talk about the kind of racist, people that have picked up this liberation theology taught by the U.S. government in Mexico. The U.S. government's come out in the news. In the 50s, started paying for millions a year of little comic books in Spanish about La Reconquista and Aztlan and the Southwest, because they planned this all along. And so I'm going to play a clip of this. We tried to find a spot where there's no cussing. The really bad stuff's up on InfoWars and Prison Planet, and we'll play some of that without audio for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers and radio listeners. But it's up on the Alex Jones channel at YouTube as well. This clip is a bunch of illegal aliens and, I guess, citizens in the Texas town of Trinity, Texas,